Good. Breeze is joining us. Hello, everyone, and welcome to this session with the amazing Dave Duca on how to boss your ECA journey. This is a really cool session because we've had different guest speakers on, and Dave's someone who actually did the ECA course, or the Coach Breakthrough course it was called. What do you reckon, Dave? 2020?
2021 for me, I think.
2021. Now, there was so much resistance to get Dave on the course. He was like, oh, I'm not sure if it's for me, and bada, bada, bada. And eventually we got him on the course, and Dave was one of those people that just threw himself into it wholeheartedly, did all the practice coaching he could do. And he's really used the training to just level up his business, which was already fantastic. And I wanted to bring Dave on because he's someone, like I said, that's used the coaching and created some really great success and impact in the schools. So some guidelines for this session. Make sure you got a pen and paper handy. We want it to be interactive. Okay, so if you've got any comments or questions as Dave's talking, he's going to talk for about 20 minutes maybe, and then we'll do some Q&A at the end. So if you've got any questions, comment them in the chat. If you've got anything you want to say, comment in the chat. Remember, be active, don't be passive. And there'll be lots of chance to, like I say, ask Dave some questions towards the end. But without any further ado, it gives me a great privilege and honor to introduce Dave Duca, the teacher, speaker, entrepreneur, historian, author, and welcome to How to Boss Your ECA Journey. Let's go, Dave.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for having me, Sam. And it's great to be here with you guys tonight. So if you guys don't mind, I will share my screen and just share a little bit about my journey through ECA and how it's impacted my life personally, and also my working and business life as well. So hopefully we'll talk for about 20 minutes. I could go on all night. So whenever you're ready, give me a sign and I'll call it quits. But I'll just try and share my screen now. Hopefully this works. So Sam, can you, it's been disabled, so can you enable it for me, buddy? So hopefully, is that coming through okay? Yeah, and you can hear me okay? Awesome. So thank you for being here tonight. My name is David Duca, and I am the founder of the Tally Ho Project CIC, and also the Rise Youth Coaching Academy. So as Sam said, I started my training, I think it was 2020, qualified in 2021. And it's had a massive impact on my ability to really grow my businesses and then start another one based on the training that I've received. So yeah, so tonight I can't really give you any sort of guidance or anything, any real insight into coaching techniques that you don't know already, or that Sam and Paul and the team are going to work with you on. So I think the best thing for me to do is literally just openly share my journey, where I've been and how it's made a difference. And then again, I can welcome any questions at the end. If you guys have any ideas or plans of your own. Obviously, we're all passionate about young people. We wouldn't be here unless we felt the same. But I'm a big believer that we all have very different strengths. And something we have to be as coaches is really authentic to ourselves, so we can serve young people as well as possible, but also because they will find you out incredibly quickly unless you don't. So I believe it's really important that we explore our own strengths. And I see ECA and Student Breakthrough as this incredibly strong foundation of coaching that we can all create something very special on, whether that's to enhance our abilities as teachers in schools or to enhance the businesses we work on. So I think for me, really, the training, it's a very foundational thing, and those foundations are rock solid. But the onus is on us to then do something with them. That's why we're here, is to support young people. So this has been a little bit about my journey. So this is a mantra that runs through my veins and through all my businesses, that I believe it's possible. I believe it's possible for the young people that I work with to rise to the challenges and to live a life of possibility, an exciting life. I believe it's possible for you guys to use this training in any way you can to make a real impact. So everything we do with both my businesses, Tally Ho and Rise, it's upbeat. It's actually a tonic to the education system at the moment, which can be quite dark and heavy. There's a lot going on. We just inject a little bit of positivity and life into that system, which I really, really enjoy doing. So what is the Rise Youth Coaching Academy? Well, coaching, mentoring, movement. So for us, every session that I start with looks like this. It is your set piece, one-to-one youth coaching session. I will ask the client how they are, how the day was, if there's anything they need to speak to. But I suppose the thing that makes Rise a little bit different is we do a lot of work with alternative provision children. So these are children who are from very tough backgrounds, who don't really have a place within the education system, who find themselves a little bit at a loose end. And to a degree, I mean, it's no easy way of saying it, but they've kind of been written off to some degree by some schools that I work with. And we have this amazing opportunity to work with them, create a space, and to shine a light on who they really are. But what I kind of learned very quickly is the coaching foundation, I needed to be really flexible with it. So sometimes the set piece one-on-one coaching sessions wouldn't work with these clients. And I would have to think on my feet, and it very quickly developed into coaching and mentoring and movement. So, I mean, a lot of the kids I work with are lads, and I can see very quickly what mood they're in, what sort of day, weekend they've had. And if we need to go outside and play football for 20 minutes or have a walk or do whatever, then we will do. And even in those moments, it's still structured conversation. There's still coaching involved. So it's coaching, it's mentoring and movement. And we're in a position where we have just signed a contract, and we're now in school. So in a secondary school, we're an in-house coaching academy, and after the October half term, we're going to have our own base within that education system, so we can start to really have some fun with what we're doing. Bring in, punch bags, table tennis tables, these activities where we can engage these students, where they can feel comfortable, where you can build a rapport, which is so incredibly important when you're coaching with young people, is that rapport, getting on their level. And then from there, I have the real belief that you can make a really positive difference. Some of the people that I'm working with, they have had it incredibly tough. Some have lost both parents, some have been grown up in abusive households. So what I've seen is actually that the coaching session can be a ray of light in an otherwise very dark existence. And when they're in the space with me and my team, they are still full of possibility. I don't see what the rest of the world sees. I see young people, I see the sense of possibility. I have belief and I have faith in them. So that's the work we're currently doing with Rise. But I suppose what I'd like to share with you is the journey of how we got there, because my journey has been very personal to me, and you will all have your own stories, your own journeys, your own visions, your own passion. And I'm really keen for all of us to harness what they are and really sort of embrace who we are, because by doing that, we can become better coaches. So very, very quickly, I didn't quite know where to start the journey, but I've got a belief as well that coaches have to, well, not have to, but it's really beneficial when you go there, when you get to know yourself, when you maybe have to work through hardship, or you definitely have a buzz for personal development. I think it's in these moments of challenge that we find our own strengths and our own powers. And this is a picture of me in 2014 at a kids' party. So I had a young family at the time. Thumbs up, everything's fine, super positive. But what the picture hides is, in fact, 2 weeks before, I had woken up on a hospital bed, rigged up to an ECG machine after blacking out. Had chronic fatigue, a mental and physical breakdown. It wasn't very pretty. It wasn't very positive stage of my life. I was doing a job that I didn't enjoy, really didn't enjoy, and I knew I had all this potential and desire in me to make a difference, but I wasn't. I was doing a job that I hated. My sister was battling cancer at the time. There was just a lot of stuff going on, and I found myself at basically point zero, which was like nothing left. Couldn't process any thoughts, didn't have any energy. And one of the real dark moments for me was not having the energy to pick my daughter up. So my best mate was around and he was picking her up, throwing her around, and I couldn't do it. And it was heartbreaking. And from that moment, I kind of knew that I had to make some changes, and I knew that I had to rise in my own way, and it was a process I had to go through. And what I learned through that process was small positive action steps. Like, we'll take us anywhere we want to go. We'll take young people anywhere they want to go as well. So that was point zero for me. This is the start of the journey. This was 2014. But what it and what I will say very quickly is, this is obviously, some of you will be in your training now. Some of you, is like, hands up, who's used this tool before or seen this tool before? If you haven't already, then you will do soon. For me, it's one of the most powerful tools out there. This stuff like the iceberg, the tree of life. But for me, this is what people saw. They saw this positive, motivated, energized person, and I was holding it down, big smiles. But the truth is, I reached breaking point, full of doubt, frustration, limiting belief. Like, I was an insomniac. I literally wasn't sleeping at all. Fatigue, pressure, overthinking, on antidepressants. But I had a kind of, there was a very real flicker within me of determination of, look, come on, like, we can do this one step at a time. This, for me, that started initially with diet and how am I moving and who are my influences. And these are all things that I'm very passionate about working with young people about. Like, where is your energy levels? Like, you are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. Who are you spending the most time with? And for me, it was very real. But this part of my life also coincided with one of the most incredible chapters of my life as well. Both hit at the same time. And I was in the midst of this quest of tracking down and meeting as many of my heroes and mentors as I possibly could. So I've always had a passion for the Second World War. I've always had a passion for that generation, not so much for warfare itself or tactics or anything like that, but I love people. I love the human spirit. And in this generation, I just saw that in abundance. So I went on a bit of a mad journey and a mad mission, flying around the world, meeting as many of the people that I consider my heroes as possible. And it absolutely changed my life. Like, these people saw life, the good, the bad, everything in between. And they had a positivity and aura and energy about them, real wisdom about them, that it was just infectious to be around. So the chap you see top right with me in my Spitfire t-shirt, that's a chap called Bill Green. Bill was a Battle of Britain pilot. He used to fly Spitfires and Hurricanes during the war, but he was the most incredible human being. He would have made an incredible coach, that's for sure. And Bill became my mentor. And what I've only realized in the last few weeks was, actually, when I went to see Bill, like, the lifestyle I was leading at that time was crap, and I was drinking too much, and like I say, my job wasn't great. But when I saw Bill, I was clean shaven and well presented and smart and well rested, and I was the best version of myself. And that's the power of mentorship, and to a degree, that's the power of coaching. Is we have this ability to create a space where young people can come in, and we see perhaps what the rest of the world don't see. So Bill, without a doubt, saw that in me. And something I've realized recently is I can create the same space for young people as well. So as much as I was in a dark place, I had the most incredible and incredibly unique support network around me of these guys who had been through challenge, who had been through adversity, who knew how to rise. And in every interview, the first question was always, how did you do it? Like, how did you rise to your challenges, like, both personally, as a nation? Like, what were the values you held? How did you rise? And it was always these values: duty, unity, courage, resilience, positive action. So literally came directly from that generation, from my mentors. And those values absolutely have changed my life, and they are the bedrock of both of the businesses that I now run. So the values that I got from my mentors are now the bedrock for Rise. We have the same values. And with those values of courage and resilience and positive action, I started to move forward. And obviously it takes time. This is a journey, so nothing is going to happen overnight. And you can say the same to a degree for the young people we work with. But I was able to explore my passion, start a business called the Tally Ho Project, which is all about the example of that generation. I was able to write a couple of books. So the first book, Rise to the Challenge, was written for young people, based on the example of the World War II generation, sharing their story, looking at those values and see how they apply in the lives of young people today. And then this year, I've had my second book published, one of our own, which was just been the privilege of a lifetime working on that project. We've had 2 blue plaques unveiled for local pilots. So obviously I was exploring and tapping into the history side of it. That was really personal to me. But the thing that I couldn't stop and the thing that I couldn't hold down is, look, I think that this example can make a difference to the next generation. So I don't want to lose their story, and I want to share those values as far as we can. And I want to try and tie it in with coaching. So the main thrust behind the Tally Ho project was us, or me, going into primary schools and working with young people. And it was tin hats, well, it is tin hats and storytelling, and a big assembly in front of the hall of the schools, hundreds of people, and then the kids would come up and tell the story with me. It's a really positive response, super engaging. And then, knowing that I always wanted to make a bit more difference, we wanted to start developing classroom sessions where we could get down and start working with the young people. So my journey from knowing those people to rising myself now became going to work in primary school. First talk I did 2016, completely nervous. Like, genuinely, I had to talk to 30 children, and that was it. And if you would have given me an opt-out that day, I promise you I would have taken it. I was petrified, nervous beyond belief. I'd never done anything like it in my life before. And was able to step out of my comfort zone and take positive action and repeat that action and let that confidence build. And it's sent me on this incredible journey. That was 2016. So we've been doing the Tally Ho talks now for 7 years, created some amazing memories, got a fantastic network of primary schools. And we've now connected with a figure with 13,000 young people by doing that. So the Tally Ho project and the values of that generation, we've now connected with 13,000 people. Now, what did I learn from that? Well, I was thinking about this earlier on today when I was putting this together. Like, young people need time and space. Fact. They can't learn, they can't process unless they have a little bit of time and a little bit of space. Now, 3 seconds or bust. You may be asking what that means, but I'm going to tell you a quick story about a session I ran in primary school. So this is with 9-year-olds. I think they were year 4s. So you imagine I go up and I start to do the storytelling. They're sitting cross-legged on the carpet. They're all shuffling forward. And by the end of it, I'm surrounded by young people all around. And I'm telling these stories, and we go through the values. And I say, can anyone give me a definition of courage? And a young lady puts her hands up as well as the rest of the class. I was like, yeah, excellent. What do you think courage? What does courage mean to you? And she was like, courage. It's like, yeah, so I think courage is, and she was processing it and she was taking some time. And the whole of the class of these young people were like, me, like trying to get as high as they can in their chair. And I found myself physically holding the class back with my hand and just literally creating some space between me and this young person for her to speak. And she was getting there. She started exploring the idea. And then her teacher piped up and said, if you haven't got the answer, I think we should move on and give someone else a go. And again, it was like, right. And I sort of literally put my hand up again. I was like, no, she's fine. And held my hand up. So I was holding back the weight of 30 young people and a teacher to give this young person some space. And the answer she crafted was incredible. It was a textbook and beautiful definition of courage. And she earned the Tally Ho gold badge, much sought after Tally Ho gold badge, I have to say. But it was a real insight into the pressure these young people are on. I mean, it's a complicated question. Like, how on earth are you meant to formulate an answer and then work out how you're going to verbalize it, then have the confidence to do that in front of your class? And then speaking to the teacher afterwards, I sort of said, I just want to highlight something I saw today. And she said, to her absolute credit, as soon as she said something, I noticed what I did. And she had just read a report, and she said the average wait time in schools, but from when a teacher asks a question to when they move on to someone else, is 3 seconds. So that's literally, can you give me a definition of courage? No? Okay, let's move on to someone else then. Can you give me a definition of courage? 3 seconds. And it's like, absolutely mind-blowing, insightful for me massively. So as a coach, it's about creating space and time where they're protected and they can feel open to share and explore. And as coaches, we have to get comfortable with silence and we have to get comfortable with space. And we have to let them do their thing. And it's similarly in primary schools, not just primary schools, but this is from this sort of this part of my career, is a lot of students are unintentionally written off. So even now, when I go in to do the tally ho talks, I'll have a chat with the teacher, and she'll be like, "Look, just to," I say she because predominantly they're female teachers in primary schools, just to let you know that so and so over there, like their behaviour will be bad. They won't last the session. So don't be offended if they leave. So the lad under the table who's got ADHD, he probably won't stay that long. And they just point out all these people, tell me why they're going to fail the session, and say to me, "Don't be offended." And I understand that. But had they not have had that conversation with me, I promise you, probably because of the nature of the work, because we're talking about rising to challenges and we're talking about these values, if you'd have said to me afterwards, who were the top 3 or 4 members of your class, I promise you, almost every time, it's those exact same students. They're upright, they're engaged, the eye contact's fantastic, they ask questions, because we give them a chance to be like that, because we allow them time and space to explore and express their potential. And it happens for me time and time again. And it's something I've definitely taken into my coaching. What I see as a coach, unfortunately, isn't necessarily what the teachers see. And I understand that they have them, all day, every day. They're disruptive because they're in a group environment and it can be hard. But the moment you can create space and let them explore who they are, then what happens as a result of that can be incredibly special. So that's another thing I learned from those tally ho experiences. And the thing that really bugged me was that a single visit's not enough. Like, I would make this link, make this connection, have this sort of bond with especially these young people who are struggling. And then at the end of the day, be like, right, I'm gone. Right, see you later. And literally, it would break my heart every time. And it got to the stage where I knew, look, I have to do something about this. I have to deepen my knowledge. I have to study somehow. I need to give myself some kind of qualification where I can make a deeper and better difference. And then this chap turns up. So someone introduced me to Sam on LinkedIn, and Sam and I got chatting. And I respect people where their actions speak louder than the words. So it's easy to talk about making change. It's easy to talk about the problems that the education system has. Like, of course, people can see that, but what can we do about it? What can we actually practically do about it? And in Sam, I saw someone who was on the front line in supporting young people with their mental health challenges, supporting them rising to their challenges. And as you said at the start of the call, I probably experienced everything you guys did. I was like, oh man, that's a lot of money, and can I justify it? I've got a young family, and all those sort of thoughts that was going through my mind. But I could kind of tell there was an energy and a synergy that, look, this is the right place for me, and I think this will benefit the young people I work with. So I began training. So what you guys know is the ECA, when I trained, which was a few years ago, was the student breakthrough. And for me, it gave me such a foundation to go on to make greater impact. So in primary schools, we started developing coaching sessions. So we would do the history hit, and then I could talk about values, but with a bit more confidence, I could then coach and work around it. And that was with groups of 30, 30 young people, like class sizes. This was my cohort. So this was my crew. And again, what surprised me with the training with ECA is how much I actually learned about myself. So yes, you learn about young people. Yes, you learn about active listening and the power of questioning and timing and rapport. But going through the process, working with you coaches, as we coach each other, as we train, God, I learned so much about myself. I learned that actually this coaching process was also making me a better dad as well, fundamentally a better father. So there was a moment in my life where my daughter was struggling quite badly with her mental health. And whereas before I'd have been in fix it mode, like, come on, do this, do that, like, let's fix it, fix it, fix it. There was a moment, and I was right in the heart of training, where we were outside and she clearly wanted to open up. And I was able to create a space, like, completely down to the training I'd got. I would never have approached it in the same way before. And just ask a question or two, but listen, just essentially listen to where she's at. And at the end of the conversation, I paused and I just said, is there anything else that you'd like to tell me? This is the sort of question I would never have asked before. And she did. And she actually disclosed something really serious and something we were able to then work on. We still work on, we still process, but like it made me a better dad. I mean, Jesus, like something I'm incredibly grateful for. I learned so much about myself, processed so much about myself, and absolutely loved working with these people, learning from them, learning from their experiences. And it was just so important to me personally, and to the process of my businesses. So like off the back of that, like my top tips for ECA or student breakthrough, like why was I able to get the most out of it? Well, the truth is I kind of threw myself into it. So I just went to as many sessions as I could. And like anything in life, the more you do something, you get in that groove, you get in that flow state, it becomes infinitely easier to do. There was a moment during my training where I stopped and I missed a few weeks. And then I came back and I was like, oh God, I was clunky and it wasn't great at all. And I was working with a coach called Zoe, who was an incredible coach, but Zoe tells you as it is. And wow, that day she told me, and it's like, oh, that was really hard to hear. But the fact is, I wasn't putting the work in. I'd had 2 weeks where I'd gone off the boil and it showed in a big way. So for me, consistency is key, like showing up consistently, working through, made a big difference to me. One of the hardest things I found with ECA was those practice clients. So I don't know what stage you guys are at the moment, but for me, getting that first practice client in was terrifying. And session number one with any new client, even now I get butterflies. So tomorrow I've got 5 new clients that I'm working with at school. They're all alternative provision, and already I've got the butterflies. I'm like, okay, it's that session number one. So the power is in those practice clients. So the sooner we can get them booked in, the sooner we can start to overcome that and actually work. You realize that, look, you're in the right place and you can make a difference to young people. Despite the fact you're still inexperienced, it can be really, really impactful. And like I say, we're all here for the same reasons. Like we all want to help support young people in their lives. That's why we're here. And it's an opportunity to do that. It's scary, it's daunting, but that's where the power is. And again, I threw myself into the community and was hugely grateful for it. And what I loved was that I could ask as many questions as I wanted to. I could tap into Paul, to Nick, to Sam, to the people I was training with. And I'll give you another quick example. I was working, one of my practice clients was an 18-year-old lad. And he had this like stream of consciousness. So he had to just download his thoughts at the start of every session. So 10, 15 minutes, was like, he'll just talk at me. And what I realized, he just needed to get it out of his system before we could then get to work. And it was through one of these kind of streams of consciousness where he said to me, you know, I was waiting in a car and my anxiety was through the roof and I was thinking about taking my own life again. All those thoughts came up and he said it so quickly, and then he was on to the next thing, and then he was on to something more positive. And before I knew it, it was sort of lodged in the back of my mind that he did just talk about suicide there, and he was talking about anxiety and panic attack. But the sort of conversation moved away from it really quick, and he was in a really good place. So I was like, I don't know whether to bring him back to it or what to do. And before long, we just got into the session. We had a great session, but I didn't acknowledge it, and I knew there was like something didn't feel right. So after the call, I basically jumped straight on to the group and just dropped a video to everyone, just saying, look, this is where I'm at. This is what's just happened. What do you guys think? And I remember Sam saying to me, look, dude, just have a quick chat. And the advice was, we really need to acknowledge these things. Like if they are going to open up, they're going to share, we probably need to, you know, think of a way around this. So basically I messaged the lad I was working with. He was 18, so from a safeguarding point of view, there was no parent I was working with. I messaged him. I was like, look, dude, I know this is really sort of out there, but are you available at 9 o'clock this evening? Can we jump on and can we have another conversation? And he was like, yeah, cool. So we had another chat and I just acknowledged it. I was like, you said something in that call that I didn't acknowledge at the time, but actually it stuck in my mind. You know, is this something you'd like to talk about? And he did. And we had a great chat about it. And he said at the end, you know what? I've never spoken to anyone before. That's the first time I've opened up about it. Now, it was clunky, and the way I handled it was like, it was out there. But the fact is, I was able to support a young person again, which is why we're here. But I wouldn't have been able to do it without tapping into the community because I weren't experienced enough, at least the truth. So the support's there, the community's there. Get the practice clients, and then you just learn as you go. It can be tough, it can be grueling, it can be knackering, I'm not going to lie. But it's so rewarding. So the community for me is everything, and linked on that is like, you have to protect your own energy. Like you just have to. Like I once went down the route of back-to-back clients in one evening. So I'd have a 6 till 7 and a 7 till 8, thinking that was a good idea. And oh my good God, like no time to overrun, no real time to prepare the next session, absolutely shattered afterwards, like mind blown. And again, that's something I had to sort of deal with quite quickly. But you'll hear from Sam, no doubt, that you can't pour from an empty cup. But again, with your passion, because you're here doing what you want to do, you have a duty to look after yourself, for your self-care to be on point, all the things you know that are good for you, whether it's going for a walk or reading or spending time with friends or family, whatever it is for you, it's got to be on point. That's like rule number one. And then once you have that, you can then serve and you can make a real difference. So for me, again, found out the hard way by having back-to-back clients. But yeah, protect your energy, look after yourself, and then you can go on and serve other clients as well. So that's my sort of top tips. I was incredibly proud and grateful to qualify. And like I say, it really impacted Tally Ho, my business. But my journey kind of continued. So it's like, look, I can see in primary schools that, look, kids love storytelling. They love this. Like I could talk about toasters, but if I did it with passion and enthusiasm, then they'd be well up for it. So that's all good. But let's face it, like when young people hit the teenage years, especially in the current education system, especially in the current world, when you've got environmental crisis, European war, you have so much going on, that's where they need support, in my opinion, from sort of, well, secondary school, really. So I started developing an idea of a youth empowerment program, and that was to do group sessions for 15 students, some of them alternative provision. I did it with a couple of other people. And again, what I realized is, and this is what my message is that it just wasn't me. Like I realized by being up there, I held my own, but I was working with someone who was incredible at it. It was their thing. She was amazing. She could really do sort of hold that group dynamic. I realized that I don't want to be up there talking at young people. I feel like they get enough of that probably in their life, of adult up by screen being spoken at. Like, I want to listen. And it took me 2 complete cycles of 10 weeks, and a lot of anxiety on my part, and a lot of sleepless nights and worry about the following day sessions, to realize that, look, this isn't me. Like, and we have to find our own path. Like, what is you? What suits you best? What conditions can you create to be the best coach that you can be? And for me, it was one-to-one, and it put myself in a position where I could actually listen and not be speaking all the time. Although you wouldn't believe that tonight, I'm doing a very good impression. So my journey kind of carried on from there, and I developed the Rise Youth Coaching Academy. So Rise sees me working one-to-one, and this is a sought after Rise t-shirt, and on the back of our t-shirts we have "It's possible" emblazoned down the back of what we wear. So when you become a member of Team Rise, then you get one of these t-shirts as well. But I absolutely adore the process. I adore working with young people. People say to me, God, it must be really hard, because they're seeing the personalities I'm working with and they're judging them from their point of view. But in the same way that I was able to be the best version of myself with my mentors, and I saw that and I felt it, like we can create that for our young people. And that's why I absolutely adore doing. So I will finish tonight, because I know I've spoken quite a bit, with my belief that, so when I walk around the schools that I work with, like I am the beacon. So I wear a black shirt with Rise on the chest, and on the back, "It's possible." And I model what I talk about. If I see litter on the floor, I'll bend over, I'll pick it up. Like I don't do it to be seen. I do it because it's about modeling those sort of behaviors. Like I am prepared, I'm well rested. Like I'll get up in the morning to take the dog for a long walk. So I've done my 10,000 steps for breakfast. I get in the ice bath. Like when I'm there, I am ready to coach. I'm the best version of myself. And the belief that, I mean, education systems are struggling at the moment, and they need positivity, energy. They need an impartial view. They not people who are institutionalized, but people still believe. And that's kind of what I like to embody when I'm kind of bowling around and fist bumping and speaking to previous clients and stuff like door. And then you look at the metaphor of the beacon, the lighthouse, and the resilience, how it's been battered and bruised, which we all are to some degree. And coaching isn't easy, but we stand tall and we are the beacon. And like I say, when we can find our place, what makes us tick, like, kids will respond to it. What they won't respond to is something that isn't quite authentic, isn't quite real. It gets found out very quickly. So I would just say, look, explore who you are. What are your strengths? Like, is it dance? Is it movement? Is it like, are you a teacher that wants to like enhance their teaching business? Whatever it is, but like, do you, absolutely do you. And what ECA will give you is a foundation that you can build the coach of you on top of. Like, I, for a little while, got hung up on, it's got to be this way, it's got to be that way, I've got to do this, like, but actually it's not. It's a case of, this is to empower you and for you to build something special on. And I'll leave you with this slide. Look, this is the belief. This is what we wear. Like, it's possible. It's possible for all of us. It's possible for young people. And I've got every faith in them, and let's watch them rise. So thank you, people. That's about all I have to say about that, Sam. So I'm going to stop sharing and I'm going to join the room, and I'm happy to have a little chat. So bear me a second.
Wow. Anyone else feel inspired? Let's give a virtual round of applause for Dave. Thank you so much, mate. Unbelievable. Thank you so much for sharing your honesty. And yeah, coaching creates beacons. That's going to stick with me for a while. So thank you so much, mate.
That's my pleasure.
We've got 20 minutes. And this is your chance to ask Dave some questions, or you can just share some thoughts. Remember, be active, don't be passive. You can unmute, you can comment in the chat, you can raise your hand, whatever you want to do on Zoom. What questions have you got, or what comment would you like to share?
I have some questions.
Go for it, Emma. Shoot.
Hi, Emma.
I'm super interested in the alternative provision side of what you're offering. And while what I'm doing isn't that, I've worked in prisons with young people, and phenomenal line of work. But I guess I'm interested in whether you were already doing that, or that's something you developed after doing this. My plan is to work with home educated teenagers. So I guess the alternative provision, I'm guessing they're kind of, are they like PEC schools, SEND schools, things like that you're working with?
No, they're mainstream secondary schools. So in my area, so to answer your first point is, I wasn't doing this before my training, no. So I qualified through ECA, got the qualification, and on that I built this and was able to then go on doing what I'm doing. I'm in Cambridgeshire, and in Cambridgeshire, schools can't expel students, they can't dismiss them, so they have to find alternative provision. Obviously you guys will know a lot more than I do about this, but there aren't that many providers out there of any quality with any space, so they look to do homeschooling. A lot of parents don't want to do that. They look to alternative facilities. Often there isn't space, and there's a situation where young people are lost within the education system, where they're just almost rattling around, being disruptive. There isn't a space for them. So yeah, so what we do is, and what we're going to continue to do, is have a home, create a space, not just for alternative provision. That's something I am passionate about. Like, it needs to be accessible to everyone, but there is a need for that. So yeah, so that's my part. So again, I'd like to hear a little bit more about yours. So what are you thinking around your offering?
I home educate my son, he's 12, so I'm super passionate about home education anyway, so I'm already on fire for that. And the kids that I have experience of being around throughout England and the world, really, because we travel a lot, me and River, and we'll meet up with other home ed families all around the world. And there's something about home ed children or young people that is so far the opposite of what everyone else is experiencing in their work with schools. Most of the time we bring our children out of school and we home educate them because we're passionate about them having their voice and them learning. And for example, River studies philosophy. He has done for 3 years. That's his passion.
How old is he?
Do that in school. He's 12.
Nice, happy days.
And and he sometimes plays guitar for 8 hours a day. And he's just, they're given so much more freedom. They're given so much more of a voice in general. So I did some related to so much of what you're saying. So you're talking about jumping into the practice coaching. So I was at a Home Educating Families Festival a couple of weeks ago, and we hadn't even started our practice clients, but I was like, I'm just going to do it. I'm just going to put it out there. I took some copies of the Breakthrough Wheel, and I thought I'll just sit down with some kids if they want to do it, and we'll just see what happens. And I made your mistake of booking people back to back. In fact, I messaged Sam afterwards, immediately, like thinking I was going to die. I was like, never again, like lesson learned immediately. And I had a really similar, such a similar story to you as well. Like one of the kids that I coached, I had some like really intense experience, and immediately I was on the phone to Sam, just like, I don't know what to do.
Yeah.
I'm in this situation, I don't know what to do. And then I've since brought it out to my cohort, and like it's major growth actually happened. But the thing I really did notice is that the kids go really deep. Even something as light as a Breakthrough Wheel,
Yeah,
these
100%.
kids are just like, cool, let's dive deep. What, you want us to dive deep on every single section? What do you want to do? What do you want to talk about? Let's go. Where should we go for it? It's intense. It's super intense. So I've kind of pulled back a little bit, and I'm gonna, as Paul said, coach some school kids as like a bit of to give myself a bit of a break, a buffer as I get back in. But I've already got a whole bunch of home ed kids that want to be coached. I feel like that's the one thing they don't have the opportunity for, is that kind of guidance that school kids have. They have too much of it. School kids have too much of it, and home ed kids, I guess I just feel like it would be helpful for a lot of home ed kids to just have someone to develop their decision-making skills, because they're kind of the opposite. They're left to themselves quite a lot. So yeah,
that sounds awesome. And again, like I love your passion, and that's what we're talking about, isn't it? Like it's having that passion in your area, your space, to make that difference. So yeah, massive respect.
Yeah, thanks. I've really enjoyed tonight. Thanks for chatting.
Who else has a comment or a question? It could be something you've taken away.
Yeah, someone just made a comment. I haven't actually seen any of the comments, so I'm just sort of tracking back through them now. But yes, state school kids are spoon-fed everything. People wonder why they have no resilience. Like, I don't know about you guys, but working in secondary schools this year, or back in the last year, this year, has been eye-opening for me, and a real learning curve, like huge learning curve. So in your guys' opinion, like what positive changes could they make?
I want to jump to Nick, actually. Nick Black. Nick, do you want to jump on? And I know you just started a new school, and it'd be great to hear your experience, if you can, of coaching. Anything you want to share around that point?
Yeah, sure thing. I mean, I think it's been a real frustration for me for a very long time. A little bit about what Emma was saying as well, is this idea of the freedom that home educated kids have got against just the complete lack of it that you get in state schools. And it's almost like we don't give state school kids any credit for being people, you know. Students have, I mean, I've been teaching for about 15 years now, and students have always throughout my career kind of gravitated to me as someone who will listen, and someone who kind of they can count on to be there for them, until I leave and go to a new school, obviously. But still, even at my new school, I've been there barely 3 weeks, and already I've got this group of kids who just constantly are at my door wanting to share something or ask something or just have a moan. And I think it's just because I talk to them like they're human beings. I don't really understand why so many teachers don't. I really don't get it. There's so many times that you're looking at a teacher and how they're interacting with these kids, and it's like, why are you teaching if you don't like kids? You know, like what is your role here? It's just so many people just are so focused on getting them through their exams, and I think, yeah, but they're only going to take in so much knowledge if they don't have the resilience and the mental strength to get through their day. And so I take the other tack. I focus on their mental health. I focus on their resilience. I focus on them as human beings. And if they pass their exams, well, great. You know, which I think maybe isn't the best thing for a teacher, because I prioritize the student. And
I think it absolutely is the best thing for a teacher.
It's something that really struck me actually in an old school, was that our head of secondary at that point came back after our first cohort of exams, saying how great the year was for the previous kids, because every single student in our year 11 cohort went on to the next steps that they wanted to move on to. And he was talking in a really positive way about how the students had done. Now, they didn't, it was a brand new school. There was a lot of issues with it, but the students hadn't actually done very well. Our GCSE results really weren't that good, but the kids got enough. Our priority from myself and the head of secondary was to get the students to their next steps. And so if that meant, losing out on maybe, one grade, like their geography grade, maybe, because that wasn't going to be relevant to what they were doing next, we were ready to make the decision to sacrifice that for that student so that they would get to the next step that they needed to get to. And Matt, the head of secondary, was bollocked afterwards for speaking so positively about the job we had done the previous year, when the school governors and the head teacher really didn't feel very good about the results they were received, because they were focusing on the figures, they were focusing on the data, whereas Matt and I were focusing on the students. And that to me just encapsulates what's wrong with state education.
I think the thing is as well, something I've realized is that actually when young people are on alternative provision, bizarrely they then have the education that every young person should have. So an alternative provision kid has a budget attached to their head that the school aren't quite sure where to put it, but it allows space for people to come in and give a different and more bespoke education to their young person, which is it's good that at least some kids are getting it, but it's such a shame that the majority aren't, unfortunately.
Yeah, you see so many kids that just aren't built to be sat in a classroom for 5 hours of the day, learning how to comply.
Yeah,
which essentially is what too much of education is about. That's my piece. Sorry, folks.
I feel like we could talk about this for a long time. We could be there all night.
Yeah, I have to say, I'm probably not all about protecting my energy right now. I'm about getting myself free in order to create my new energy, if I'm honest with you. My current energy isn't in a very good place.
The coach in me would love to explore that a little bit more.
Yeah, I bet.
But that energy, Nick, around, one thing that connects us all here is that, one of our values is rebelliousness and doing something different. And that energy of, we talk about your why you're doing something, in order to help that young person create a more personalized experience. Like, that is what will drive you.
Yeah.
Keep you going. Like Dave will probably attest to that, that reason why you get up and keep going and going. And I'd really harness that and use that. Because how you just spoke then, it came across in spades, like around about your passion. So keep it on.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Thanks very much, Dale. I really appreciate the call.
No worries. It's been a great session. We've still got 9 minutes. If you haven't even got a question, what's something that stood out to you? What's been a little insight? What's been a breakthrough moment?
Sorry, was that to me again?
No, Nick, you've had your time. We'll mute you. I'm joking. You can share if you want, Nick. I want to open the floor though to everyone else if we can. Everyone's looking at their notes.
I'd love to throw a question at David, on behalf of everyone here and anyone watching the recording, of kind of what were potentially some of the biggest challenges you had, sort of setting something up for yourself, because I think that's where potentially a lot of the people who come on the ECA courses now are kind of at that stage of, how do I potentially transition out of teaching or build something bigger on the side? Like, what would be like one snippet of advice or learning you'd had?
So my snippet of advice, you guys have probably got a better understanding of education than me, but is to keep going and to be patient. So what I've learned is teachers need a little bit of understanding. Like, it's easy to jump on a teacher and like things aren't done quick enough, or it's not done well enough, or it's easy to jump to those conclusions. But I've seen what the real picture is. So for me to get into the stage of first contact, speaking to the school, to start coaching, was a 6-month process of conversation. I came in and did an assembly and we built the relationship. So the biggest challenge I had really was getting through the front door and building that relationship. So my advice would be to approach it with an element of understanding and respect, and build the relationship out and then make it strong. So when I'm now in schools, I build a relationship with everyone, like the receptionist, teachers, students, everyone, and I'm a part of the team and I want to be a part of the team. But that process takes a bit of time. So that was one of the challenges. There was a part of me that was a little bit impatient. It's like, oh, come on, let's make this happen. But actually, teaching's tough. It really incredibly tough, and I just feel like teachers need a bit of understanding. So my advice would be to keep going and keep picking away, and small positive action steps.
That's fine. We've got Alice has got no voice. She's been coughing away, bless her. But she said, protecting your energy has been big for me. Thank you for sharing. Steph, I haven't seen you coughing, so we're going to unmute you. What was the reminder of the small steps? What made that land for you?
I think it's just the idea that we are, like, once you're out of teaching, you're back at the start of everything's new. So it's being kind to yourself, that something that would have been maybe or is easier for somebody else isn't easy for you just yet, and that you have to just kind of stretch that, your comfort zone, and just that, you know, today I had a few things that were new, but maybe didn't change the world, but they made it a little bit closer. So yeah, it's just that, it's, you know, just listening to David then, like, if that's 6 months to get into the school, then you need all the small steps to get the result. So yeah, that's kind of what I'm thinking. Also, I spoke to Nick earlier today, and it's just, this conversation's really reminded me that although I have just left teaching, I worked in a school that was really based in transactional analysis, and they absolutely were student-centered. They had we all had all the pressures, as you know, still a recruitment crisis and all of those things. But I just want to raise the hope of the world with the last words, that there are schools that still try their best to fight the system and raise young people like they are human beings. So a shout out to,
yeah, absolutely,
to some of us that still fight the good fight.
Nice.
Yeah, like Steph, I like you share there around about as well, like looking at, obviously not comparing yourself to other people who are further down the journey, because, you know, we can all get into that trap, and it's a pretty toxic trap to find yourself in, because then you'll get that self-doubt and judgment. It's just comparing to where you are, you know, in this moment. And I think one thing is just about taking shots and saying yes a lot of the time. And all of a sudden, here you are, you know, like, you know, 5 years down the line, and we've got Nick doing the ICF thing. We've got Dave, who's finished the training. We've got this amazing cohort of beautiful people from all around the world. Like, but it's just about that consistency. There's going to be days that are slow. Like, you know, Dave will say that. There's days where it's like, what's happened? But, you know, you're always moving the needle, but it just comes from taking shots. So Breezer, we haven't heard from you. You commented lots in the chat, but anything that landed, any questions you've got? You're on mute there.
I know, I'm struggling against myself. For some reason, it doesn't. Okay. Yeah, the small steps really. I'm really feeling that. So, just for those of you that don't know, I'm living in Slovenia. I was working at the international school for 2 years, and then for the past year and this year, I've been exploring different opportunities, and so I just got in touch with the school again, and I'll be substitute teaching for a teacher that's going on paternity leave. And it's a fascinating situation that I'm in, to be honest, because I'm connected to a lot of the international schools now, and I'm starting to see a little bit more of what is going on in some local schools as well. And so it's, yeah, talk about things taking time. Like, it has been frustrating on multiple levels for, you know, months and months. At the same time, I feel like some things are starting to come together, and I'm all here for that, because it's time. But I mean, like, I have a network of some parents, and ones that want to do things differently, some that don't necessarily know what to do differently, and so there's a lot of different groups going on. But like, I definitely see myself as a bridge, and having a community like you guys is just absolutely so important. So yeah, I feel like I'm just starting to break new ground, even though I've been working the ground for a very long time. So yeah, just super inspired to be here with you guys. So thank you.
Thanks, Breezer. Appreciate you. Dave, we haven't asked the classic event question of how can people connect with you? How can they find out more about you? How can they stalk you on the internet?
Well, what I haven't done is I haven't obsessed around social media throughout all this, so I'm not amazingly well known. But Tally Ho Project Work, you can find us on Facebook. Feel free to drop me a line on LinkedIn if you want to chat, or drop me an email. Like, I'm sure Sam will share my details. But yeah, I would happily sit down and talk with anyone about any ideas they have, or anything really. I love to learn. But yeah, I'm yet to build that social media audience. I realize it perhaps ain't a priority.
I mean, it just shows you can build a successful business not by social media, but by relationship building.
Yeah, and the thing is things have to happen in the right order and at the right time. So I'm at a stage now where there's a young university graduate who's going to be joining me next week, and then with another pair of hands and another mind on the business, we can start to open up about the work we're doing, and it will make life a bit easier. But it just has to come at the right time, and it can be tough at times. So yeah, just go easy on yourselves and keep moving forward. But yeah, I'm here, and I love to chat, as you can tell.
I'm just finding your email so I can put it in. What is it again? Can you just remind me?
I'll tell you what, let's make a bit of a change here. Let's do the new one, Sam, shall we?
Okay. Just
It
drop it
is
in the chat.
right. Let me do it. Yeah. Okay, I'm with you.
But Nick's already a fanboy. He's already put Dave's LinkedIn in the chat.
I already had it open to send him a message, so it's
Oh, there you go. Nice
we'll
work.
catch up.
So something else we're working on as well, very quickly, just to end the call. I know we're about that time, but we're very passionate as well about building a network of coaches. So it's not just about making a difference within education. We can be a hub where we can, because we're out on the front line and we work with young people, we can send them your way. We can start to join some dots up and connect young people with coaches. It's an idea I've spoken to Nick about before, and Sam, but under the Tally Ho guys, it just wasn't quite right. But with Rise, we're absolutely on point. So we will be there'll be a coaching network which we start to put together. So we are looking for funding, we're looking for commercial partners, and when we get them, we can start joining dots up with young people that have the needs. We'll get to know our coaches and we can make the perfect connections, and then the coaches can get to work and the young people are supported. So that's another part of Rise, which will be coming next year.
Yeah, we've been talking about that in the background, and when it comes off, it's gonna be great. It's gonna support obviously young people, but also the coaches that we've been working and training with here. So never stop creating, Mr. Duca. Never stop creating. I just want to say, from on behalf of everyone, just thank you so much for your time. That talk was unbelievable, and I love your energy as always. So let's give another virtual round of applause to David Duca. Thank you so much.
Nice one.
Hey,
cheers, guys. Enjoy
appreciate you all. Have an amazing evening. Take care. See you soon.
See you later, guys.
Bye, everyone.